Sophie Gibson Rush. This is Strong Sound, and you were just watching the video for Sixa Vampiro by Daniel Martin Diaz, or that's directed and filmed by Daniel Martin Diaz. Sixa will be performing on January or December 31st at their New Year's Eve big bash at the Rialto. It's called Mantra, and it's a glow-in-the-dark New Year's Eve. This is their second year doing it. And every year, this big New Year's Eve show is more and more sort of cinematography heavy, lots of like beautiful aesthetic elements. It's really interesting. I'm really lucky to have Brian Lopez of Sixa here in the studio with me, and we're going to talk for the next few minutes for you. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Sophie.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really good.
Great.
Yeah, it's different to be here in the evening. We usually do this around 5, but this segment is going to be pre-recorded.
Oh, do you actually get sunlight in here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I'm going skiing tomorrow. So,
what?
Yeah.
What is that like?
It's beautiful, let me tell you. So let's get right down to business. The one thing that I'm really interested in with these New Year's shows is the way that you've built the aesthetic for them. I was watching the video, and it's actually a video we're going to go out on, of last year's show, and all the glow-in-the-dark cactus, and the really, really striking costumes, and the two-step even. So if you could just talk a little bit about how you built with Gabe and Daniel the aesthetic for Sixa and the aesthetic for these New Year's shows.
Yeah. Well, we've had an aesthetic within the band since we arrived onto the planet, but with the New Year's Eve shows, this will be the third one we've done at Rialto. And it just, 3 years ago, we got a hold of, Curtis McCrary got a hold of us and wanted us to do a show. We kind of arrived on some kind of glow-in-the-dark, crazy, like, I don't know, just a kind of an environment where people can be uninhibited. It's kind of dark, and you know, it's New Year's Eve. People can get weird. They don't have to be in the spotlight. There was like party favors that were glow-in-the-dark, and it was wildly successful. So each year, we've kind of built on that same theme with the same, variations of the same kind of like dancey music that we do ourselves.
Right, the psychedelic dance.
So this year we kind of arrived on Mantra, which originally was going to be more of a very colorful Bollywood theme, but due to logistical nightmares, as well as not wanting to offend anyone within that community, we decided to scale it back a little bit, and there will be elements of Bollywood, but it's just not full-blown, Bollywood themed, and Mantra's going to be pretty great. We were actually at Rialto today putting together some of the props and stuff with Daniel Martin Diaz, and Gabe was there, and yeah, it's going to be really nice.
These are props that you'll interact with, not just
we don't just show up and play music, like it's a big production. Everything goes into it. We have stage plots, schematics. Gabe and Daniel ordered the props, huge cardboard cutouts that are going to be scaled along the stage.
Give us a teaser of what they might be?
Well, go and watch the video from last year, okay? And I think the theme was called Dark in the Desert, so it was like huge cacti, and it was kind of like there was like a huge pyramid with like the third eye.
That's sort of like in and out.
Yeah, it was kind of this wild psychedelic cactus glow-in-the-dark scene. And then this year, it's going to be, I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be a lot of work, and we're really excited for people to show up and check it out.
Yeah, so this is the third year, not the second year.
The third year.
Yeah. That sort of leads me to my next question, which is how does and we were just watching that video for Vampiro, does the supernatural have elements? I know it definitely has elements in your aesthetic, but how does it inform your music?
Yeah, I don't think it's like a premeditated thing. Like we didn't all sit in a room and decide that, we're gonna convey the dark image. No, it's not like that. We just surrounded ourselves, like Daniel Martin Diaz and his partner Paula Valencia have been working with us closely with music videos and album art, and as we keep moving along, we keep transforming and evolving into whatever project we engulf ourselves in. And right now it's just a New Year's Eve production, which, you could just show up and play your songs and that'll be it. And that's just not our style. We kind of go full on out. Like the video Vampiro that everyone just saw, like that, you know, that came from a treatment that Gabe and I kind of came up with, and then Daniel and Paula took it and just brought it into a life of its own, and this is just kind of like the working flow that we've become accustomed to.
Yeah.
So it's not just us in the band, it's a lot of
larger
artistic
band.
direction. Yeah, it's a lot of people around us too that really help us get our message across.
Yeah, well, that's just fantastic. Speaking of the band, you and Gabe front it together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's becoming less unusual in the music world, but it still is rather unusual. How did you make that decision, and also how do you navigate that?
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, Gabe and I, luckily, are very, we're not egomaniacs in our own right, you know, and we both have our solo projects that keep our individuality occupied creatively. And, you know, we've both produced stuff. Gabe's turning into a monster in the studio, too. As we speak, he's probably already produced 3 records. But, so we have our own lives aside from the band, and I think that really helps when we get together. You know, we're like brothers too. We're just so close that arguments aren't gonna. It's just for the best of the band. It's not. So I don't know. I think a lot of bands share responsibilities. You just, from outsider perspective, you're not seeing all those shared obligations within the band. Whereas with Siksa, it's just so apparent that Gabe and I are fronting it because we both sing.
Right.
And that's the only reason why you're thinking that, you know, it must be difficult. But I think every band has, it's
deep
a
internal conflict.
multi-headed monster with every band. You know?
So speaking of your individual pursuits, you just got back to the country, right?
Yeah, last
week.
week.
You were in Europe doing a tour based on the music of Nick Drake with a full chamber orchestra. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and what Europe was like this time around?
Sure. So yeah, December 1st we started rehearsals, and I didn't know anybody on the tour. I got contacted by a guy named Jan in France sometime during the summer, and he asked if I want to do this big Nick Drake project, playing and singing. Basically, I was a singer in an orchestra, which is really bizarre because I don't think I've ever sang without having a guitar in my hands, other than like karaoke, like drunken karaoke. But I said, I'm pretty busy this year. Like, I'm on tour the whole year. I like up until December. He's like, oh, we start rehearsals December 1st. It's like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so I get there, and it's a 10-piece chamber orchestra. I have my songs that are allotted to me, and you know, it was great meeting all these new people. There was Russians, French, the singers. There's 3 singers, me, a guy named Eric Polito from a band called Midlake that's based in Denton, Texas, and a guy named Mark Gardner from Oxford, and his former band is called Ride.
Yeah.
And they kind of came up on the same label as like Oasis and Jesus Mary Chain, and you know, he's like Radiohead, like he's pretty well.
Like little indie bands.
Some bands went places, some bands went to lesser places, but Mark was a great guy and a great companion on the road, as well as Eric and the rest of the orchestra. And it was just really nice for 10 days getting to know brand new people in my musical life, you know, just breathing new air into everything. And I just got recordings of the shows today, like audio recordings, and I was listening to them, and you know, I haven't thought about it even for 10 days, and it's like, wow, we were really good.
Where do we get those? When do we get them?
Well, there was a film crew with us on the tour bus, and I'm imagining, because they filmed everything, like I'm pretty sure they even snuck into my little bunk and filmed me sleeping. Like they were pretty invasive, but that was kind of their job, you know. And they're probably still editing stuff because they filmed everything, you know, from multi-perspectives, and you'll get something at some point. I think they're going to do a vinyl at some point, so that'll take a while. But as far as like live, visual, audio, hopefully soon. I need to write an email because everyone keeps asking me, and I want to see what that looked like too. And,
we'll all keep an eye out. Just last question. This segment is very much geared towards local musicians.
Sure.
And we in Tucson are at all different levels and lifetimes. I'm just wondering if you have any advice that you would give a local band that's just starting out.
Advice. I think the best advice, and this is just from my own experience in Tucson, is go out and check out your peers. Go see their bands, go learn about them, and do it authentically. Don't do it to like, you know, just network and try to climb up a ladder. Like, if you're not into music, then I guess don't go out and see them, but you should go out and meet who's in town with you. And I mean, the obvious things, you need to practice your craft all the time, every day, and it gets harder to do it as life gets busier and as you get older. But I mean, even myself, I have to remind myself to sit down and practice some scales on guitar. Even this last tour, it was like singing. It was like, oh yeah, singing scales before going out and being a soloist with an orchestra is very, very important. And that kind of reignited my passion for practice. Because, you know, you get caught up in like the minutia of it, sending emails, you know, booking flights for people, and next thing you know, you're doing like 1% music and 99% like BS. And it's good to get back to the basics. So those two things I think are very important.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We're all out of time, but it's so wonderful to talk to you. Mantra on December 31st at the Rialto. Go see it. You will not regret it. I'm Sophie Gibson Rush. This was Strong Sound. I'll see you next week.